Just after midnight, a ripple of urgent news spread through both Washington and Caracas. The U.S. had seized a Venezuelan shadow fleet tanker in the South China Sea, a move that would send shockwaves through diplomatic and energy circles alike. Under a moonless sky, a specialized U.S. team executed a high-risk boarding of the Libertad, a ghost ship with its transponder off, its true ownership hidden behind layers of shell companies, and 1 million barrels of sanctioned crude oil bound for the global market. The operation was swift, silent, and meticulously planned, a clear message to the world. The U.S. was done watching from the sidelines. The era of quiet tolerance for these shadowy operations was over. For years, U.S. and international sanctions had pressured President Maduro's regime, but Venezuela's shadow fleet, an armada of unregistered tankers, kept oil flowing, defying restrictions and fueling the country's battered economy. The Libertad was just one of dozens of vessels playing this high-stakes game of cat and mouse, slipping through loopholes and evading detection on the high seas. The boarding team secured the vessel without resistance, detaining the crew and seizing not just oil, but a vital link in Venezuela's survival network, a blow aimed at the heart of the Shadow Fleet's operations. By dawn, the world awoke to a new reality. The U.S. was now actively targeting the Shadow Fleet, and the rules of the game had changed overnight. The Department of Justice quickly confirmed the operation, citing violations of sanctions and money laundering laws and signaling a new phase in the enforcement campaign. The statement was blunt and uncompromising. The U.S. would use every available tool to disrupt the illicit networks propping up authoritarian regimes, no matter how far they reached. For the Libertad's crew, the journey ended in uncertainty and custody. For global energy markets, a new wave of volatility and anxiety began as traders scrambled to assess the impact. This was more than the capture of a single ship. It was a declaration of intent, a public warning to all who trafficked in sanctioned oil. The implications rippled outward, from Singapore's bustling trading floors to the corridors of power in Caracas's presidential palace, as leaders and markets alike recalibrated their strategies. Was this a one-off, or the opening salvo in a broader campaign? U.S. officials refused to elaborate, but the message was unmistakable. The Shadow Fleet was now in the crosshairs. The Shadow Fleet, once operating in the margins, was now a direct target of international enforcement and surveillance. The open seas, which had long served as Venezuela's economic lifeline, had suddenly become a battleground, one where every ship could be the next to fall. The seizure of the Libertad marked a strategic escalation, crippling an adversary's income, reshaping global energy flows, and signaling that the era of impunity for shadow fleets was coming to an end. Seizing a tanker like the Libertad is a complex operation that starts long before boots ever hit the deck. It's a high-stakes chess game played across oceans and continents, involving months of preparation and coordination. Intelligence analysts work around the clock, tracking ships that suddenly go dark, monitoring suspicious midnight transfers at sea, and unraveling the tangled web of shell company ownership that hides the true operators. Satellites and drones keep constant watch over global choke points, while U.S. naval patrols log every suspicious movement, building a real-time picture of the Shadow Fleet's activities. The ultimate goal is to build an airtight case, one that links a specific tanker to sanctioned Venezuelan crude, leaving no room for doubt in court. Digital breadcrumbs, financial records, and visual evidence are meticulously woven together, creating a compelling legal narrative that can stand up to international scrutiny. Once the evidence is solid, a federal court steps in, issuing a formal seizure warrant that authorizes action on the high seas. Specialized U.S. teams, highly trained for maritime law enforcement, move in with overwhelming speed and precision, boarding the vessel before the crew can react. Under international law, these actions are often controversial, sparking debate among nations, but the U.S. asserts its authority under its sanctions regime and global anti-smuggling efforts. The boarding party quickly takes control, informs the captain of the seizure, and navigates the vessel under escort to a secure U.S. port. There, the ship and its valuable cargo are officially seized as criminal assets, marking the end of a long and intricate pursuit. The confiscated oil is then auctioned off, with proceeds often directed to support victims of the Venezuelan regime or to fund further enforcement operations. From digital detection to the final auction, Every step of the process highlights America's global reach, technological prowess, and unwavering resolve to enforce international law. The U.S. shift to active seizures is the result of years of sanctions failing to topple Maduro. Since 2017, Washington tightened its grip, but Venezuela's shadow fleet kept oil and money flowing. Sanctions were leaking. The shadow fleet was the back door. With improved intelligence and stable oil markets, the U.S. saw an opportunity. The new campaign is a calculated risk to disrupt Venezuela's logistics, bet on minimal global fallout. It's an admission that passive sanctions weren't enough. By physically removing tankers, the U.S. is directly attacking Venezuela's economic survival. This hands-on approach marks a new, high-stakes phase in sanctions enforcement. The legality of these seizures is hotly debated. The U.S. cites domestic laws and civil forfeiture warrants, treating tankers as criminal assets. Critics argue the U.S. is extending its laws into international waters, undermining maritime norms. Venezuela and allies call it modern piracy, claiming sovereign vessels can't be seized on the high seas. Even U.S. allies worry this sets a precedent for unilateral enforcement. The global shipping industry faces new risks. Could other powers follow suit? Legal experts are divided. Some see transnational crime. Others warn of a slippery slope. The core question, should the high seas be policed by global consensus or by the strongest navy? The answer will shape the future of maritime law. The U.S. campaign is testing the boundaries of international order. The U.S. seizure campaign jolts the global oil market's shadowy corners, sending shockwaves through an industry already on edge. Overnight, the rules of engagement have changed, and uncertainty ripples across shipping lanes and trading floors. Traders now face not just fines, but the loss of entire cargoes and vessels. The stakes have never been higher, and the fear of sudden asset seizures haunts every transaction. The risk calculation for dealing with Venezuela has changed dramatically. Buyers are vanishing, and even longtime partners are pulling back, wary of being caught in the crossfire. For Venezuela, each seized tanker means less hard currency, deepening its economic crisis and making it harder to import basic goods or pay off debts. Export volumes drop sharply as ships avoid Venezuelan ports, starving the regime of funds and further isolating the country from global markets. Globally, the direct oil supply impact is minor. Venezuela's output is a fraction of world demand, and other producers can fill the gap. But the psychological impact is far greater. But the secondary effects are real. New geopolitical risks, market volatility, and a two-tiered shipping system are emerging, as some tankers are shunned while others command a premium. Chartering a tanker for sanctioned routes now costs a premium. Insurance is nearly impossible to obtain, and only the most daring or desperate are willing to take the risk. The shadow fleet shrinks, squeezed by financial and physical threats, as fewer ships are willing to operate in the gray areas of global trade. The campaign is systematically dismantling Venezuela's oil logistics, crippling its ability to export and maintain its infrastructure. The world's oil flows are being reshaped, not by supply and demand, but by enforcement and the long reach of sanctions, forcing tankers to take longer, riskier routes. The message is clear. Sanctions now have teeth, and the consequences are being felt across the oil world. The U.S. walks a tightrope, maximizing pressure on Maduro without sparking wider conflict. Each operation is framed as law enforcement, not military aggression. Specialized teams and legal warrants reinforce this narrative. The U.S. avoids a full blockade, targeting only vessels with strong legal cases. The risk of miscalculation is real. A boarding gone wrong could escalate fast. Venezuela and its allies have naval assets. Retaliation could be cyber or at sea. The U.S. must prepare for escalation while reassuring allies and markets. The campaign's narrow focus is meant to avoid global disruption. It's a high-wire act. Cripple a foe, but don't destabilize the system. Success depends on precision, restraint, and constant diplomacy. The U.S. campaign has rattled the maritime industry. Ship owners, traders, and insurers now face catastrophic risks if caught in Venezuela's web. Illicit actors use forged documents and ship-to-ship transfers to hide origins. A single mistake can mean losing a multi-million-dollar vessel. Insurance won't cover it. Due diligence costs are soaring as companies scramble to avoid sanctioned cargo. Neutral ports face U.S. pressure, allow suspect ships, risk sanctions. Many ports now refuse entry to ambiguous vessels, squeezing Venezuela further. The chilling effect is industry-wide. Some shippers avoid entire regions. The U.S. has effectively deputized the private sector, making every actor a sanctions enforcer. The global shipping map is being redrawn by fear and caution. The U.S. strategy is reshaping maritime law and global norms. Freedom of the seas has long underpinned global trade. By seizing foreign vessels on the high seas, the U.S. asserts controversial new jurisdiction. Other powers, China, Russia, may follow suit, risking tit-for-tat seizures. The open system of maritime trade could fracture into spheres of influence. Supply chains may shift, accelerating economic balkanization. The tanker seizures symbolize geopolitics overriding free trade and law. The U.S. bets its actions will be seen as legitimate, but it's a gamble. The risk, a less stable, more dangerous world for shipping. Who writes the rules on the high seas now? The answer will define the future. The Libertad's seizure marks a turning point in global sanctions and energy trade. The move from financial penalties to physical interdiction is a fundamental shift. This could become the blueprint for future economic conflicts. The global oil market may fracture into compliant and shadow systems. Energy routes and alliances will realign. Oil's price may depend on politics, not just supply. International law struggles to keep pace. New rules are urgently needed. The campaign's outcome will set a precedent. Success means replication. Failure means caution. The world has changed. Energy, law, and power are being redefined. A single tanker's seizure has exposed new global fault lines. The ripples will shape how nations compete and cooperate for years to come.